Morning, guys. Today we're going to take a look at a new project of mine. We got a 6-inch Longslide from Metro Arms. It's carbon steel, fully ramped bull barrel with a full-length guide rod, adjustable sights. I installed a fiber optic green front sight and put some new G10 grips that are coyote color, and it comes with one 8-round ACT mag. Really nice gun, very well fit. Comes from Metro Arms Company. They're based out of the Philippines, and I gotta say, I'm impressed. They did a really good job with the fit and finish. It's really on par with anything in the $800 to $900 range of 1911s. I picked this one up for just a hair under $800. Got a super deal on it. They're currently listing for around $1,000, and I think they're worth it. So far, I've run a few 45 ACP loads through it before any spring modifications to get it set up, and it's been running like a champ. So we're going to set it up for hunting season this year, and we're going to be using 45 Super and the 255 grain hard cast loads. So we picked up some from Underwood. Here you can see 45 Super, 255 hard cast flat nose, running just under 1,100 feet per second. And the same with the buffalo bore. There, we can get it dialed in. There it is, 255 grain hard cast at the same 1,075 feet per second. So let me pull one of these out and show you what they look like. There you go. That's what the buffalo bore looks like. Decent sized flat nose, but still has plenty of ogive for reliable feeding. And here's one of the Underwood. You can see that they use a nickel plating for their cases and a red coating on their cast bullets. It's like a little container of lipstick almost. Kind of funny looking, but if it does the job, I'm not going to complain. So, let me just give you a quick view of this Metro Arms here. There you go. It's got forward cocking serrations, which I like. It's got a very nice serrated front of the trigger. It's got serrations. I would almost say that they're cast. I don't think they're cut in. I believe they're cast into the frame. Guessing maybe 25 lines per inch. The back strap also has cast in checkering. It has a full mag well. Do a little safety check for you. Stay still, Mr. Camera. There we go. Nothing in the chamber. That was a very nice gun. I really like those G10 grips on there. It does have ambi safety. I did have to trim off a little bit of the top of the grip so that the ambi safety would clear it. Not much that a couple minutes on a belt sander wouldn't take care of for anybody that's wanting to do the same. So far for our 45 Super upgrades, we installed an EGW flat firing pin stop. So this little edge right down here comes to a nice 90-degree angle. Hopefully you can see that. It's got a little shine to it from just being rubbed against the hammer, but there's no bevel there whatsoever. There you go. So what that does is it engages the hammer at a lower point closer to the pivot, making it harder for the slide to come back. We also installed me, myself and I, but we got a 26-pound mainspring in here to help also delay the movement of the slide by just making it harder to compress that spring when it pushes the hammer back. The factory spring that comes in the gun for a recoil spring is an 18 or 18.5 pound, I can't recall, but it was like an 18-pound recoil spring, which should be sufficient for the 45 Super, and we're going to test it out today. I've got a calibration pack from Midway of the Wolf springs for the Longslide that we can cut and trim and tweak it if we need to, but we're going to run it like this and see what happens. And yeah, it's a very nice gun, and we're looking to take some deer with it this year. Maybe even possibly a nice Hawaiian black ram. So anyway, let's get to it. Today we'd like to thank our sponsors, Old Red Truck, Cargo Liner, and Air Force combat boots, because they're a whole lot easier to get off of a Air Force pilot than they are some Marine. They only cry a little bit when you take them. So again, thank you to our sponsors. So let's get started. So guys, we got the target. Put a few shots down here. They came in towards the 6 o'clock position, 25 yards. Not a bad grouping, about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches here. So everything's looking good for the 45 ACP. Now we're going to take the Buffalo Bore 255 grain hard cast 45 Super rounds using the factory ACT mag and see where we hit at 25 yards. Considerably more recoil off of those than the factory 230 grain full metal jacket 45 ACP rounds. So far, function looks good. See if we can find some of those spent casings too and check for high pressure and any marks on the primer. We'll go see what the target looks like as well. Hang on. Alright guys, so we've got it dialed in at 25 yards. The ACT mags are working fine. The Wilson Combat mags are working fine. The gun itself is running 100% reliable. Kind of concerned with it being a bull barrel that's got a feed ramp. There might be some feeding issues, but it's been 100% working like a champ. So when we stopped, we took a few shots to see where the Buffalo Bore was going to be grouping. Yeah, it didn't even hit the plate. So went off camera, got it all dialed in, completely used up my remaining Buffalo Bore bullets and started using the Underwoods, and it's back on target now. It is running great. We got some decent groups. Before getting it dialed in, my last two shots were on the paper plate right here. From center to center, we're at 0.852. I'm not complaining. I know someone's going to say, well, you got to have 3 or 5 shot groups to know where your center of your group is, blah, blah, blah. You paying for my bullets? Yeah, I didn't think so. If you are, send them in. I'll give you 3 and 5 shot groups all day long. Until then, I'm reserving what I spend on ammo. So we're going to move it on back to 40, maybe even 50 yards, take some shots back there, and then we'll set up the gong and we'll do some freehand, not freehand, but like sitting in field positions, trying to hit the gong and making sure that we can do ethical hunting situations. So let's go back and see how it goes from there. Oh, one other thing I wanted to point out. When I have this set up with the spring weights that are in it, and I'm 100% certain that that is an 18.5 pound recoil spring that comes from the factory. 26 pound mainspring. It's got a Wolf extra power firing pin spring and that EGW flat mainspring, the firing pin stop. It's working like a champ. I don't think I'm going to have to tune this with the springs at all, because I'm getting case extraction to about 5 to 6 feet. And for those that aren't aware of why you would want to be concerned with how far your cases are extracting, if they're pitching out 25, 30 feet, you're running some really hot loads and that spring is underpowered and you're putting some abuse on your gun. So if you want to prolong the life of your gun, you might want to look at bumping up the spring weight a little bit to compensate that and bring it back into a reasonable range. Right now this thing's kicking out right about 6 feet, and they're piling up in a little group like that. It's really nice. I've been able to recover a lot of these, and they're pitching them off into the woods too. And no signs of high pressure whatsoever. I don't know if you can see that from there. There's a little tiny mark where it hits on the edge of the slide as it extracts. And I've got almost no firing pin drag on these things. It's not a dead center firing pin mark, but it's not really a teardrop shape either. I mean, it's doing really, really good. If I start to notice any teardrop shapes with the firing pin, then we might want to look at maybe getting Wolf's, I don't know what they called it anymore. It was like an extra power firing pin spring. But it's doing really good. And as far as primer pressure is concerned, yeah, it's getting flattened out along the case head, but it's nothing excessive. It's nothing I would be concerned about. Even with the buffalo bore cases, no signs of overpressure. I got to say that fully ramped barrel has got some good chamber support. These are Starline brass from both companies. This one just happens to be nickel plated from Underwood, and they have extra material on the back end here, whereas your 45 ACP brass looks externally identical, but on the inside there's less material back around the primer pocket. So that's why you don't reload 45 ACP to 45 Super or even 460 rolling levels. There's just not enough material in there to safely run it. So the Starline brass that Buffalo Bore and Underwood are running are fantastic, and I'm ecstatic. I don't have to do any recoil spring tuning whatsoever. The Wolf springs that came in the calibration kit are extra long. They don't even give you weight ratings. What they have you do is measure the distance of recoil spring can be in your gun, and then you trim it down to fit that. So they can't give you a weight rating on that. They come in like letters of ABC or whatever. But it's not looking like I'm going to need it. The factory 18.5 pound spring is right on the money, and it is not abusive in the recoil. You'll get to see some shots here of the recoil itself. It's not super abusive at all. It is more than your 45 ACP, but it's not uncontrollable. It's not crazy. It is not anything anybody would have any trouble with. So I think that's great. You're getting 10 millimeter power with a 255 grain .451 diameter bullet. So yeah, I think it kind of trumps the 10 millimeter a little bit. So anyway, let's go get set up.